Children of Standard 4, we have been discussing about the animals and their young ones. We discussed what is reproduction, and we came to know that it is a characteristic of living beings. All animals reproduces, and their methods may be different, and we discussed about the two ways of reproduction. And there are, on the basis of the reproduction, we can categorize the whole animal group into two. One group that reproduces through laying eggs, and one group that reproduce through by giving birth to young ones. So we discussed about the animals who are laying eggs, and we talked about the structure of egg, about the yolk, about albumin, about a protective shell, and the metamorphosis from yolk, from an embryo to an adult chick. So we talked about in our previous classes about the life cycle of a hen. Now we want to explore about many other animals that are laying eggs and about their metamorphosis. So we talked about the metamorphosis is a change in the structure of an embryo in the journey of the whole life cycle from an embryo to an adult animal. So metamorphosis is a change in the tadpole undergoes several changes through a process. We are knowing that is called metamorphosis. So first, we want to talk about water animals like frog and fish. We talked earlier that they lay eggs too, and a fish lays hundreds of eggs at a time. However, only a few hundreds grow into a baby fish, because all of us know many of the eggs are eaten by the big animals, and many of eggs do not undergo through a metamorphosis because they are destroyed at a very early stage. So let us start to know about the life cycle of a frog. So before we start the life cycle of a frog, children, we came to know that frog is an amphibian. It lives life in water as well as on land. So that is why it is called amphibian. Amphi means both, bien means lives, both the lives it is leading. So there must be different limbs to move on land, and there must be different, that there are some adaptability of a frog to live life in water and on land. They have the different locomotory organs, they have the different breathing organs for both the situation like water and land. So let us start to know about the life cycle of a frog. So a female frog lays hundreds of eggs at a time in a lake or pond. So they always lay eggs in wet places, and these clusters of eggs are called spawns. So this is called a floating cluster of egg is called frog spawn. It is surrounded by a jelly-like substance and look like a cluster jelly-like substance that protects them. So this jelly protects the egg from being any kind of enemy or any kind of adverse situation. So the young one of a frog is called tadpole. The eggs are surrounded by a jelly-like substance and the eggs develops into a tiny young one called tadpole. Children, here the most important thing that you must know that a tadpole is entirely different from an adult frog because tadpole is similar to a fish because tadpole has to live life in water. So they have the different breathing organs, they have the different adaptability to move in water. So when the tadpole looks like a fish and tadpole does not resemble a frog, it looks more like a small fish. It has a long tail but has no legs because it has to swim. It breathes through gills in water like any other fish, and it swims in water and eats water plants. After 4 or 5 weeks, the tadpole loses its tail and grows organs and limbs. And in about 11 weeks, it transforms into a fully developed you can say frog. So tadpole, this complete change in the form of an organism from the young stage to the adult stage is called metamorphosis. So the female frog, in order to become an adult, a tadpole undergoes several changes through a process. So look at this diagram. The children, the frog lays eggs in water, and this is called a cluster of eggs. It is called frog spawn, and spawn, it is surrounded by a jelly-like substance to protect the eggs. And after some days, the tadpole comes out from the egg, and this tadpole does not resemble to an adult frog, and it breathes through gills. It eats small plants of water, and it swims like a fish, and it really resembles like any other fish. After 4 or 5 weeks, this tadpole develops limbs, the forelimbs and the hind limbs, and suddenly the tail, it starts losing its tail. Instead of tail, it starts developing lungs inside it because it has to breathe with the help of lungs on land. So after the tadpole attaining the forelimb and hind limb and the lungs, its metamorphosis is over, and now it is ready to change itself into an adult frog. This is an adult frog. It has forelimb and hind limb. It is a fully developed adult frog, and it has lungs to breathe on land, and again it is ready to start this life cycle. So children, one thing is the most important, that the dissimilarity between a tadpole, this is a baby frog, and an adult frog, and we came to know that this metamorphosis is the change of structure. A tadpole undergoes several changes, that is called metamorphosis. So children, what is important, when an adult frog swims in water, it has a padded limbs. You can see it has web between its toes that helps it in movement in water, and it breathes through its skin in water. So this is a really very interesting and amazing fact about the frog. So this is all about the life cycle of a frog.